Hello, Empowered Woman. Welcome to this episode of the Empowered Woman podcast. As I record this, what I like to call my fourth baby, my book, The Empowered Woman, is officially a week old. I'm just so overwhelmed with gratitude. 100 copies have been sent out to encourage and empower. Thank you so much. If you've been one of the people who have decided to invest and support me and hopefully read it, it's a short read. So I encourage you to dive in. I am now offering signed copies directly via my website. You can go to marjasburke.com/book to order yours. And I've also decided to host a virtual book signing party on Zoom on January 20th at 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time. I would love to have you join us to continue on the celebration, share your feedback, and ask questions. I will put the link to the Facebook event in the show notes. But I'll be sharing the Zoom link. You don't have to sign up. Just show up on Zoom. I wanted to make it as easy as possible so that more people will come in, drop by, share the celebration with me, share your thoughts on the book. Many have already received it, have been sharing their screenshots on, or their selfies, I should say, on social media and tagging me. So if you've got your copy, whether it be your ebook or a physical copy, share with me, send me a private message or tag me. I would love to see it and also hear your thoughts. During the virtual book signing party, I will also be sharing more details on my brand new program that goes hand in hand with the book. It's called the Empowered Woman Experience. It's a 5-day live boot camp where I break down the 5 steps that I outline in the book. Every day I'll go live to share more in depth on each of the steps, talk about the Enneagram, give you prompts and exercises to reflect, and take what you learn in the book to a higher level. And something else that I'm super excited about that is a part of the Empowered Woman Experience is that I have decided to not only write, but perform and record 9 original songs. I've been trying for the last 6 years to figure out how I would incorporate music in my coaching, and I have a little bit here and there, but it's official now. With the program, the Empowered Woman Experience, I will be releasing 9 songs. You have to be a part of the program to be able to listen to them. They're like affirmation, meditation, mantra songs. Everyone that I have shown this to have said how it's got stuck in their heads throughout the day. So if you maybe have struggled with affirmations, or if you would like to add to your practice of affirmations, I got to tell you, this is really powerful because it's like that favorite song that gets stuck in your head, but it's actually a powerful saying that you're repeating to yourself and ingraining in your subconscious mind as well. You can find some previews to some of the songs at marjasburke.com/experience and also more details on the program. You can join in with us with the payment plan for just $111. And I would love to have you. It's lifetime access. You will have 5 trainings plus the 9 songs. It's an amazing value. And now on to today's episode. Today I talked to Connie Kercher. She's an entrepreneur coach. She is the CEO and founder of Switchboard Networking Boutique and a well of knowledge when it comes to productivity, focused efforts, strategy, and an amazing concept that she shares that she calls Floss Your Day. We had an amazing conversation. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Empowered Woman Podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to start believing in yourself, giving yourself permission to succeed, and let your voice be heard to make an impact in the world as an entrepreneur, this is the place for you. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marja Spurk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode.
Hi, Connie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello.
Yay. I'm so excited to chat with you. So I usually start with a little intro before you introduce yourself and say how we connected. We've known each other for quite a while now. So it's been over a year.
Yeah.
And you're one of the main reasons why I joined Polka Dot Powerhouse, which is amazing. I've shared about the network several times here on the show, but I spoke for your chapter. So you're a managing director for the Westminster chapter here in Colorado. And I spoke for your chapter and I really loved the community. So you were kind of like my entryway into the dot world. So thanks a lot. And ever since then, we've connected. I've spoken at other chapters where you were present, and I found out that you're a fellow Enneagram 3, which
instantly creates a bond because we understand the pain and the glory of being this driven, competitive human on this crazy world. And I just loved knowing your story and seeing all the amazing things that you're doing, hearing from people that work with you, that love what you are doing out there. So welcome, and tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, let's dive in. So yeah, that was awesome. I'm like, yep to all those. So again, Connie Kercher, I'm very blessed that I have served in several capacities here in the Colorado area, the Denver area specifically. So I own Switchboard Networking Boutique. We've been here for 5 years. We're a venue space. We do group coaching. We have business in a box partners, and it really is kind of a community space, a tangible brick and mortar community space to do face-to-face, knees-to-knees, heart-to-heart education, right? And so that's been my own company. It's always been kind of my passion to be able to have other entrepreneurs be able to activate their expertise and showcase where their gifts shine, because we definitely need more of that. And then, for the last 2 years, I've served as the managing director for Polka Dot Powerhouse Westminster chapter. And that's been a wonderful blessing of getting to just know different walks of life and how we do business differently and why we do business in different seasons of life. And so that for sure has been a full circle community that, to your point, it's like lifetime. Like I'm like, once you kind of get into the dot bubble, you're like, it never ends. Like, you're just like, what about this? What's this new chapter? Who's this new person? What about that? So so I'm very blessed today to be able to talk about the journey of that. Being intentional in that, the challenges of that, even though I am super, driver and confident and all that, there are still parts that I'm going and I'm still growing. 10% better every month.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. And I so resonate with that. And that was actually one of the directions that I wanted to take this, is to have somebody else on that understands the business world, that is super driven. And I think in general, we are pretty hard on ourselves, but I think specifically as very competitive people, we tend to be even harder on ourselves and not see the progress. And just, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but doing this work and facilitating this growth in others really helps remind ourselves of how far we've come and the work that we still need to do, and, getting better every day, the 10% and all of that. But I would love for you to share a little of your story of moving to Colorado. Because I remember when we talked, that was one of the things they were like, oh my gosh, we have so much in common on that front too.
Yeah. So my background was, I thought the full trajectory was going to stay in senior administration for higher education, right? Whether it be private universities or public institutions. And I was on the fast track, like working on, the doctorate, got the ideal position, and just really recognized that that was not the journey. Like I did not find that I was able to grow the way I wanted to, serve the way I wanted to, have the innovation. And so, in 2016, I completely left that trajectory and started Switchboard back in Denver, Colorado. So I was living in Texas and in Pennsylvania, during those times of my university time. And so it was interesting that I had so many transferable skills, but the first 2 years of being a full-time entrepreneur, a full-time business coach, a full-time consultant, because I always did trainings and workshops and leadership development. I always had a coaching and consulting business, but it was always on the side. It was always in addition to, right? So then to transition that to go, this is it did rock my world to go, well, how professional am I? How much do I bring over into this entrepreneurial space? How do I redefine myself when others always saw me in my networks and my associations and all the publications I read were in this world? And now I belong to a new world. And so it was definitely about a 2-year transition of, I know I have transferable skills. What are the ones I need to capitalize on and move as quickly as I can to go, Connie, you're a solopreneur. You are this coach. You are that, like nothing has changed. You just do it in a different modality. That was one learning lesson. And the second kind of transitional part was, as soon as I moved back to Denver, I truly talk about competition. I was like, you are doing 50 networking touch points the first 4 months, because I signed a lease that opened up in 4 months, right? So I moved back here in the summer and we opened up in September of 2016. So I knew, instead of me teetering on, let's see how the first couple months go, let me see, I seeded all that front work before we were even open to get all those wiggles out, all those wins out, all of those, what do I say? Was that the right way? Okay, well, I've got a workshop here in 2 hours. Like, you didn't get that much time to ruminate. You just did it again. And so I'm a big believer of, like, when you have that repetition in transition, you pace faster than you realize.
Yeah.
If you don't have consistent repetition, that is something that I'm like, I probably learned in those 4 months, I learned probably 2.5 years of data condensed in 4.5 months.
Yeah.
Right? I would have paced so much longer. I've been so much further behind now in year 5 if I did not just use that condensed time. Not sustainable.
Yeah.
When I opened September 7th, I was like, okay, that was the blitz. We're done. But I think it was a great way to leverage, like, let me sprint for 4 months. Let me get all of my, again, wiggles out. I don't have time to think about it. I don't have time to look back on the old island of, like, maybe I'll go back to higher ed.
Yeah.
I was all in. I burned the ships, signed the lease, and never looked back.
Oh my gosh. I love that story so much, because many people have, like, the approach of, let's see how it goes. And then a year goes by and it's like, well, nothing really happened.
Well. Yeah.
Yeah, not well.
Yeah, not well. It was some wins, some not. Yeah.
And I love the focus on repetition, because that is something that, oh my gosh, I found to be so valuable that people overlook, because it's simple. It's not pleasant necessarily, because, we get bored and, what's this other thing over here? But when you think habits, when you think any kind of result, it comes from you not really focusing so much on the instant gratification and just going for it and doing the repetition. And one of the things that you said in the beginning was helping entrepreneurs activate their gifts. I love, and you talking about transferable skills, because I think many times we see these two separate identities, and then we have people also that don't help. And they're like, what are you doing? This is so different. Why don't you stick with the safe path of your diplomas and your degrees? And it's like, no, but it's kind of related. And then, you're already insecure to begin with. And then people come in and they're like, no, it's not related. You are insane.
Yeah.
So I love that you said looking for those things. So I guess to come from the perspective of somebody that may be in the transition right now, or that is struggling with those feelings of imposter, right?
Yeah.
What are some of your tips into that a transfer, and also in the activation? I love that.
Yeah. So I think there's threefold. I think the first one is remembering that completion builds confidence. So if we keep saying in that first year of business, that transition into starting a new program, launching a new product, trying a new way of networking or of marketing something, if we don't ever know what the finish line is, to go like, what would it look like to complete, instead of always in progress, always trying, that will just keep, like, honestly, dwindling your self-assurance to go like, I got this. I can accomplish one thing, right? Like, that's what we're trying to do, is just get to the finish line one time. So completion builds confidence. So knowing what are those little wins on a monthly basis, that's very transferable. That's very, okay, I know I can do networking really well, right? Like, that's what I could do well. So I was like, do 50. I knew what the completion line was. I wasn't attached to what came out of those 50. I did them for 4 months, and then I can evaluate. Okay.
That's an important piece.
So that piece I think is really important, is like, what are you actually trying to blitz to complete? Second is I'm a very big believer on pacing. There's going to be different days that, like, you're all in for 8, 12 hours or 6 back-to-back appointments. And then there's days where I'm like, I'm in recovery, right? Like, I'm in just true pacing to go, I need rest. I can't be around the humans. I can't, right? So, like, in that transition time, when you do have a lot of input, a lot of internal dialogue, and some wins, right? Being able to go, what does the pace of this week look like? What does, like, my energy look like? What do my appointments look like? So that I am not on constant Mach 5, Mach 10, right? I pace that. I think that's one of my, like, little secret weapons is to go, I pace for 15 days hard in the month. And then for 15 days, I'm in steady state. I'm in recovery state. So I can go back at it in my goals at the beginning of December. Right. So figuring out what your pacing looks like as the CEO of the company, that's important.
It is.
And then I would say just the last piece is just being mindful of when you are doing the sweat equity, it is still worth something. Like I had to keep reminding me, even though this is populating dollars or populating clients or probably the sweat equity, it is what my company is unique, right? Like there's plenty of brick and mortars. There's plenty of coaches. Yeah. What am I putting my sweat equity into that makes me different at marketplace? And when you're tired, because you're going to get tired, I know it's crazy, or you feel being down, I just keep going, no, the sweat equity right now is like, this is worth a ton. I'm putting my best information out there, programs out there. And just remember that your sweat equity is worth something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love the sweat equity. That is so true. And especially with what we were talking about, the instant gratification or the completion, right? I'm not feeling attached to the result. What am I getting out of this? No, that's not the point. The point is I'm finishing this and then I'm assessing what happened. That's huge. And I love what you said about pacing and taking some time to rest. This reminds me that when we connected over the summer, you were getting ready for something big. I think it was your first time in August that you took some time off or something like that. So tell us more. And how did it go?
So during 2020, I got this nice little prompt to do my first bikini competition, right? Figure fitness competition. So I paced hard for 8 months to train for that, right? So I did one in April. I did one in June. And so I knew from a work, from a personal, from a financial, all efforts, right? All trajectory was fitness competition, Connie, right? Well, I knew that there would be a deload of that. I knew there would be a decompress moment to go, I can't sustain that push, right? So when you and I connected, I was taking 3 weeks off in August by design. That was scheduled 8 months before I even made the push.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Right. So I always think about it when we have 9 months of getting ready for the kiddo, and then we make the push, we do the labor moment. And I'm like, well, you get all this maternity leave. You get to reset the schedule. You kind of get to be kind of don't. That's real. When we push as a solopreneur for something or, as an end goal, I'm like, I knew I was going to need recovery time. That wasn't shocked. I didn't have guilt about it. That's part of the cycle. And so I would just really encourage, if you're about to make a big blitz in whatever it is, you're about to promo something, launch something, build in the recovery time now.
Yeah, that is so important. And that's how you make sure you don't get into burnout, because that's such a real thing.
Resentment. And resentment of, I just pushed, this much and I made this hard. And then it's like, I got to do it again. You do need some of that cyclical recovery time.
Yes.
And you're able to go, to be honest with you, to finish this year, if I would not have taken 3 months or 3 weeks in August, I would probably be operating off of 25% my energy capacity the rest of the year, to be honest with you. By resetting and going, August is offline, next goals, next push, right, will be September through December. I was able to gear up for that fully and never question it. I had my 3 weeks to reset and then gear up. So I think that's a really important piece for competitive people like us. So if that's you, remembering that maybe pacing would be a helpful tool.
Totally. And that you have to schedule it in. Don't just expect it to fall. Because even if you schedule it in, there's a temptation but there's something else that needs to be done. And so if you don't, that's even worse. So you have to schedule it in and then avoid the burnout and the resentment, like you said. I love that so much. And one thing I wanted to ask you about you having this coaching space, and that it is a physical space. I remember that in one of the calls that we were at, you talked about your business doing really well, even with the pandemic, even with, that would be the nightmare of any brick and mortar, and it was a nightmare for many people. Tell us how that came to be and how things still kept on going and thriving.
I mean, I think it comes from knowing what your audience needs, right? So again, the model was always face-to-face, knees to knees, heart to heart, again, location, right? So when we adapted and was able to go like, well, let's maximize on some of our programs and not focus. I mean, I focused 0 efforts, right? I think that's also part of like, it's okay to say, I'm fully not going to commit to one part of your programs or your services because it's not a need right now in marketplace. Mm-hmm. I didn't touch it. I didn't feel bad about it. I wasn't like, let's book more bookings. I'm like, everything that we do virtually, everything that we do for engagement, we're going to put all efforts into that, all inertia into that. I think if we would have honestly done 50%, let's try to do some strategies to get people in the location, 50%, let's keep trying to do some online options. I think we kind of actually would have like dwindled our resources, dwindled out our marketing efforts. And so I think it was really okay early on. I'm like, we're all in with these 2 efforts. Again, define the finish line. Yeah. And so for 2 years, I mean, heck, we're almost into 2 years. Yeah. I haven't deviated from here's what we focus on. Like 80% is this is where we're needing to go. We do not need to disseminate efforts, multiple different ways, especially with me, right? Like, I'm like, I'm running the main ship, right? Like there's only so much time and energy we can put into our companies to go, this is what is most impactful, right? And when I identified, this is what the audience needs. Virtual weekly work groups, right? Skyrocketed for us. People inside of Switchboard that they used to do face-to-face. Now we did those nationally, right? We did those, I'm like, yeah, we capitalized on that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, to be like virtual weekly work groups. It's the effort. It's how we're going to retain people. It's going to be how people are held accountable. And so just being very diligent to go like, this is who we are and this is who we are not going to be during this season, right? And that will start shifting for us in 2022. We're going to go back to a full-on blitz of now face-to-face meetings. Well, now all efforts, right?
Yes.
go into completing that goal. And then we can look at the next one. And so just really, stair stepping and going, I know from the competitive side of me, would I have liked to do 10 different strategies? The human side of me says yes. Mm-hmm. The person managing me called me says she wouldn't have survived. So yeah, I think just being able to, especially from the personality traits that may be similar, to be able to go like, it is not about the multiplying of efforts. It's about the completion and compounding of them.
Yeah. And the focus too. And that's when you were saying, we could try all these different things. And that's where I see so many entrepreneurs, and myself included, struggle, is because you're trying all these different things instead of capitalizing the effort in the one thing that works. But the problem is that sometimes we don't know really what works. And so
and to your point, like one and dones, like I always say, one and dones don't work, right? Like I'm like, you got to give something back to that repetition, like 5 to 6 times. Like even if it went awesomely or failed miserably, that's not data. That's a one-time thing. Okay. Yeah. But once you start doing 5 to 6, programs, masterclasses, ways of, getting people to events, then you start getting some trends. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think just being able to honor like, hey, the finish line was 5 or 6 of like, what is working for us? And let's keep compounding that. Yeah. Not, well, now let's try something new. I'm like, no, we just need more people in the same model.
Right. And that's a struggle for humans in general is let's try this new thing right here. And then you see this other entrepreneur doing something and they're successful. And it's like, well, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then we need strategic people like you to be like, no, friend, blinders on. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Well, and that's another thing that I wanted you to touch on with your background in helping adults learn and get their stuff together is because a lot of what you're saying is very strategy, right? It's strategic of the repetition and focusing on the effort, but it falls into the mindset piece because how many of us have heard, just do more of what works and less of what doesn't. Okay. But then when the time comes, you're still falling back into the old patterns and not advancing, right? And not moving forward. So what are some of your tips based on your experience for that focus?
Yeah. So I try to focus. So I try to focus on when we get to that visionary time, when we have innovation time, when we're excited about, what's happening, sometimes that can happen multiple times a day. Right. So one thing I do is, because again, I'm a futuristic big thinker. Let's do all the things. And then I'm like, no, really, what are you doing at 2:00 today, Connie, to move the business 1%? You know what I mean? I'm like, no, for real. Like, what's 2 to 3 look like? Is I'll floss my day. So what that means is 3 times a day, right? You'll actually take 15 minutes and you'll just look again at your, critical action list or your appointments or your email box or whatever you were about to, do a jam session with, and go, let me take all the decay out from the last 3 hours of what I was just doing, wasting time on, felt productive in, so that you don't let decay happen over and over and over throughout your day. So I at noon every day, I'll just do a flossing time where I'm like, okay, Kercher, what did you just do from 8 to noon? Like, did you send that email? Did so-and-so kind of like, did you take one thing wrong? So you kind of have to get a new mindset there. Did, your sister text you about the one thing? Like, what kind of decayed throughout those 4 hours? I need a floss. I need to remove. I need to reset. Yeah. And then I'll go to my next shift, right? Then I'm like 12 to 4. Rock and roll, right? Podcast, interview, client calls, sales calls. And I'm like, okay, at 4, floss your day. Like, what do I need to decompress from? What do I need to clean up? And instead, we usually floss our days, this concept, once a month. And you wonder if you have a toothache. Like, you wonder why you're like, root canal.
This analogy.
Like, this is horrific. And I'm like, because you let decay build for 4.5 weeks. Okay. So I like to think of, again, the flossing of my day is, I may not like it. It may bleed a little bit when you have an infection. Right. But once you start that healthier schedule where you're going, emotions are going to come up. Responses are going to go the way that maybe you expected, didn't expect that change, but to go, that is normal for all of us. Okay. But having multiple times to go get the decay out, clean it up, shred it, dump it, delete it, make a decision about it. Because then tonight, when it's 5 to 8 and it's personal time, Connie, it's family time, Connie, nothing's going to decay that time slot in my day.
Oh my gosh. I love that analogy so much. And it's that checking in with yourself, right? That if you were working a job, you would have meetings, you would have somebody to hold you accountable and say, did you finish this off? And then when we're working for ourselves and by ourselves, it's like, everything runs into, and then we wonder why I never did anything that I was supposed to do, because you didn't have that moment where you checked in with yourself and really analyzed, like, was I distracted? Like, how did that go? And
what built up? Like, think about, like, decay builds up, right? Really fast. So I'm like, what pile built up from my notes? What pile of, I'm like, nope, I need I need to clean it up, and not at the end of my week, multiple times a day, so that I'm not letting that compound to the point where I'm like, I'm operating at 15% and I literally do have a headache, a toothache, right? Like, I'm like, that's a real moment to go. We do that so often for our bodies, for our mind. It needs to be decluttered and move the decay often, way more often than we give it credit for.
100%. And like you said, once a month, if that, right? Or when we're just collapsing.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you're like, emergency, I've got a root canal moment. And I'm like, well, that we know, if that's happening multiple times, if I was the dentist, I would say, like, what are you doing daily? I wouldn't worry about what are you doing over. I'd go daily. Flossing would be part of that strategy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love this analogy so much. So fun. Well, let's get to our little rapid fire questions before you tell us how to find you and all the amazingness and things that you got going on. So I got 5 little phrases that are part of my framework, and you just tell me whatever comes to mind. I'll go one by one. It can be just a word, or you want to expand on it, tell a story, do whatever comes up, whatever your heart desires. It's always fun because everyone says something different. So fun for me.
Yeah, I love it.
You ready?
Love it. Yes. Yes.
So the first one is notice yourself.
Grace.
Love it. Second one is listen to yourself.
Take more time to do that with no guilt or shame.
Forgive yourself.
Still working on it, and takes more time than I think I can fully accept even.
I totally resonate with that one.
Yeah.
Empower yourself.
Yeah. You're empowered right now.
Don't have to wait. It's right now.
It's now. Yep.
It's now. And last but not least, transform yourself.
The sooner you see yourself at that 2030 vision of you, 2040 vision of you, time is an arbitrary part of your transformation.
Right. It just happens right there and then. I love it. Oh, this is so awesome.
Those are good. I like fun. Let's do more of that.
I'll put you on the spot.
Okay, I want to do like charades and act them out. No, can we do that?
Yes. No, I love it. That's like my favorite part. And sometimes I forget to tell my guests beforehand. They're like sweating.
They're like,
I don't know what to say. Is this what you want me to say?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
I love it. Good. Well, thanks for playing along. Well, tell us how to find you, what you got going on. Tell us all the things.
Yeah. So I think the best way to connect will be via Facebook, Switchboard Networking Boutique. If you like our page, it will show you our different adulting challenges. It will show you different trainings that we're doing, our virtual weekly work groups. And so for you to start following what we're doing virtually still and in the face-to-face capacity, if you are in the Denver metro area. And then if you're interested in, again, just additional ways to know about engagement, right? Like that is the core way of like, hey, here at Switchboard, we want to make sure we're teaching best practices of engagement. If that would serve you well and you want to know about a formal newsletter that we send so that you get some education on that, and again, to know about programs, go ahead and email me at Connie, CONNIE, at Switchboard, N as in networking, B as in boutique.com. So like us on Facebook, all the goodies there, all the programs, all the information about events and programs and workshops. But if specifically you're wanting to know more about engagement, adulting, what does that look like going into the new year? Send me an email and I'd be happy to pay forward some of our upcoming programs.
Amazing. And I'll put all those links and the email address in the show notes as well. Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Great. Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to connect with Connie, all the links in the show notes, and also get your copy of the Empowered Woman book at martisburg.com/book, and check out the Empowered Woman Experience to get more in-depth trainings on the concepts shared in the book, as well as 9 original Enneagram songs for you to meditate and fill yourself with amazing affirmations. Go to martisburg.com/experience. All the links are in the show notes. Until next time, bye.